Okay, we're going to look at making vector masks and also layer masks. Now it's important to find out how they work when it comes to making selections. What you need to mask off an area is to select the appropriate areas and convert it into either a layer mask, which is pixel based, or a vector mask, which is path shaped. Now, to show you how this works, that I have a circle here and another circle inside it. The outside of the yellow circle has a ordinary selection, which has been made with the selection tool. Up here I made it with the elliptical selection tool. And then the circle on the inside, the red one, that has been made a selection around it using a path. That has been down here using the elliptical shape tool. Right now, if I zoom in on here, I will zoom in, and then I'll move up to the top and zoom in a bit more, and we'll see the difference. Right, so we've got those two moved in. Okay, just move that up slightly. Now here you can see this is the selection that has been made with the elliptical marquee tool, and as you can see, it's made a selection around it, but it isn't a perfect circle. What it's doing, it has to go around the pixels because it's selecting pixels. Now below it here, I'll just move this item up so it can be seen. I'll move this down. You'll probably see this one here. You'll see the mask that we've created, and I'll just zoom in a little bit more and zoom up there. So here is the mask we've created. It's a straight line that cuts over the pixels. And so when you create vector masks, they are masking off those areas perfectly. Whereas if you make a selection, which is pixel based, you'll see here, it's like steps all the way around it. They may not be noticeable because you've zoomed in, but if you want a real quality output, a vector based mask is far more superior than a selection mask. Now, in the past, vector masks were used in the print business to mask off areas to be printed and weren't necessarily the case for online use, possibly in cutting things out before they would be changed into a bitmap image totally and then put online. Things have changed. Responsive design has come in, higher quality definition screens, and also the use of SVGs, which are scalable vector graphics. Now you will be masking off areas more for web design work. Now that's the difference between the two. Now we're going to have a go and jump in and start off with a layer mask, which is the bottom one, drawing around pixels, and then we'll move on to a vector mask, which is using paths to select an area. Okay, here we have a picture of a cute kitten, and you'll see over here in the layers, it's on a background layer. This means it's logged. Background layers are like concreted in at the bottom. You can't put a layer underneath. You can't combine it or use it in conjunction with other layers. It's at the bottom, and that's what it is, a background layer. Now if you're going to create a mask, you want to combine two layers together, and if you want to combine it with a background layer, that will not work. So what you have to do is double click on it. Comes up with layer 0. I will type in name for that layer and call it cat. Now you'll see the padlock's gone and it's no longer the background layer. Now we can edit it. Now first of all, I'll just go up and select the rectangle marquee tool and just simply draw a selection over the cat's head. Now once I've made that selection, all I will need to do is go to the layers menu. I will go down to layer mask and reveal in selection. Now there's a number of other ones where you can do it the opposite way round. So instead of having the cat's head as inside the mask. You can have its body inside the mask, but we will just go for reveal in selection. And what that does, it masks off the area. So you'll see it's masked off the rest of the cat's body. It's still there, but it's created a mask. How we know that is over in the layers, you'll see two different components on that layer. The actual image graphic of the cat, then you will have the mask and showing the black part that's masked off, which is transparent, and the white bit, which is the see-through component. There is a padlock or a chain lock between them. Now what you can do is I can get the move tool and move both of those items around, the mask and the item. Now if I wanted to move them independently, I would uncheck the chain, I would click on the cat so it selects it, and I would move the cat around. So what it's doing is moving the cat around and leaving the mask where it is. Now if I go back and click on the mask, make sure it's selected, and now I move the mask around. So there's two different ways of doing it. You can adjust it or have it two different ways around and change it. It's up to you. And then I lock it, and then I can move both of the items together. If I just right mouse click or control click on the mask itself, I can disable it. I can delete the mask if I change my mind. I can apply the mask. Also, I can add to the mask and subtract and create an intersection. Also, I can go up and refine the mask, which will give a little bit more control over it if I haven't got the desired effect to add to it. Smooth things out and adjust how smoothly it goes around. Now I'll just cancel that. Now right mouse click on it again, and what I will do is I'm happy with it, so I will apply it. And that's important that you are happy with it, because when you apply it, you've destructed the rest of the image. Now the good thing about layer masks is it's a good way of cropping images and them being non-destructible. So if you are doing some interface work and you're creating an image made of lots of components and you may want to change your mind, having things masked are better than cutting them out and cropping them. But we'll have a look at what happens when we apply the mask. When we apply the mask, what you will see is it's now isolated. There's no mask on there, and that's what the image is. That can be something you want, or it may not necessarily be that. Usually, as I mentioned before, maybe keeping the images as a mask on there might be a little bit better. Okay, I'll just go back up to the histories here, and I'll take this image back down to when we started. Right, so another way around is you can just draw around your object, and this would mean making a selection. So I'm using the lasso tool and I draw around it however you want to do that. And once you've got the selection, again, I will layer 0 it, call it cat, and then I will go to the layer menu and I will go down to layer mask and reveal in selection. Once I've undone it, I'll go back to the layer, and this time I'll go to hide selection. And what that does, it does the other way around. If you wanted someone else's face and someone else's body, maybe that might be a way of doing it. So whatever's behind it will appear. It's made this part of the image transparent. So whatever you have on there, it can make a selection, and then you can change that into a mask. Now the other thing you can do down the bottom is I'll just make an elliptical selection. I click the mouse, then I hold the Alt and Shift and just drag out to make a little perfect circle there. Now I can go down to the bottom of the layers panel, and it has the icon for add layer mask. I click on that, and there it adds the layer mask. Exactly the same as if you would go up here and add layer mask up the top. Okay, now we will now look at creating a vector mask. We've seen that vector masks are far more superior, so we'll have a go at doing that. Now if I go down to the shapes, I get the elliptical shape. Now it's important that you go up to the top and you make sure it's not shape. If it has shape and I drag out my shape, it will fill it in with a color and think you want a shape to draw with. Now we just want the actual path and not the actual shape. So you'll tell that because you have the icon has a little circle underneath the crosshair. Again, I click the mouse, I'll put Alt and Shift on the keyboard, and I'll drag it out. Now once I've got that, I can click the black arrowhead, and that can be adjusted and moved to another place. Now once that's done, there's a number of things you can do. You can go to the layer menu, you can go to vector mask, and you can say current path. There you go. It's created a path as it's done before. But we'll see, we'll have a nice clean edge around it, which won't be jagged like with the selection with the layer mask. I undo that. Another way to do it, if you click on the shape tool up there, it's still got the path, and we just click on mask, and that will mask off the area as well. I'll get rid of that. Now paths and mask appear over in the path tab in the layers. Here it is. When you create something like this, it's called a work path, and you can go to file and save it as a path. Sometimes it's just called a work path because you just use it and you may just bin it, but if you want to keep it, you can keep it. In this case, I will just delete it. So I got rid of my path. Now the next thing I'll do is go down here and I go to custom shapes. Once I've selected custom shapes from the shapes tool, I come up here and I get it to show all shapes, and I click OK. Now if I look on here and drag this out, I have lots and lots of shapes on there. So you can use different shapes to create a mask. In this case, I'll click on the heart, and again I click it on the cat's nose, and I hold Alt and Shift and I drag it out and I let go. So I've made a mask. I can see it there in the work path. I click on the layers. I've already got it away from the background by layer zeroing it and giving it a name. Now finally, I need to go up to the top, and you always make sure when you're doing this, as we did before you do it, it should say path and not shape. It looks like that. If you start off with a path and it gives you a filled in shape, you need to do it again and make sure you're on the path. Now once I've done that, again I can just go here and click on mask, and that will mask off the area. Now the same thing applies. I can undo the link, click here, make sure I get the move tool, and I can move the cat around here. Also I can move the cat in the mask. I'll lock it. I can move the cat to another location. Now once you've got that, you can go up to the layer style, you can go down to stroke, and you can put a stroke on there, make it bigger, and also you can then put something like a drop shadow and move that out. So once you've done those selections and made the mask, you can mask off those areas and you can use them. Now if you come along and say, oh, I don't want that mask anymore, you can delete it and it takes the cat back to where it was before, and I can turn off those effects. So that's a good way of it being non-destructible. Here we have a photograph of New York, Manhattan, and we're going to put some text and have the background coming through. So we're going to create a mask with some text. Now again, once you always do these, you can't combine it if it's in a background. So I double click on it and I will just put in NYC, give it a name, and I change it. Okay, I make the text 72. I'll just click over here, say somewhere down the bottom there. You'll see it goes red. It's quite small, the beam, so I will make it a little bit bigger. I'll make it 200 and put enter. Now I'll type in New York. I'm typing in quite chunky text, so we can mask off the area. Now if it's still quite small, you highlight it now and you can make it a little bit bigger. You can type it in here, or you can click up here on the characters and you can make it a bit bigger. I'll just type in that. Okay, so that looks okay. Now I'll just click away from it. Now what you have to be careful, you have to make sure it you don't click the mouse or click enter, because it'll turn it into a selection and then you can't edit it. So this looks okay, so I'm ready to go. So I'll just click the tick up the top and you'll see it's a selection. Now if you get this one of the selection tools, any of them, it could be the marquee selection tool, and you can now nudge on your keyboard, or if you're careful you can click on the edge and move it around to another location and have it like that. Right, we're going to have the text coming through, so we'll just leave it there. Now once I've done that, I need to make this into a mask. I can either go down to the bottom of the layers panel, or I can go up here to the layer and I can say layer and reveal in selection. So what that will do is reveal into the selection there. So we've got New York in the background. Now if I now undo the lock on there, I can now move the mask around if I have the move tool, and you can move that around and have the words in the background however you want it to be. So you can get the actual words in there or something else in there to show how this is going to pan out. Now when you're happy with it, you can lock it, and that's how it would work if you wanted to put a mask with text.